You know that kid song? Maybe this song is actually in Japanese as well. There's a kid song, and it goes, "If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands." I was thinking today, clapping your hands is kind of fun and makes you happier. Should that song go like, "If you're unhappy, clap your hands"? You know, like, "Hey, cheer up, clap your hands, do something fun." And this is gonna sound silly, but I watch Desperate Housewives. Yes, it's true. And I was watching Desperate Housewives, and it was the recent episode where Susan is dreaming, and she's dreaming that she's fat, and that Mike Delfino has come into. He's the handyman, and he walks into her house, and she realizes her husband has been cheating on her. So, in a kind of attempt to get revenge on her husband, she makes a pass at Delfino, and he rejects her because she's fat. But she says, "Oh no, I'm not attractive," and he says, "No, it's not that. It's that you're married." But he has pity on her. He takes pity on her, and he says, "If you're unhappy, do something about it." And that's kind of like, clap your hands, right? If you're unhappy, then clap your hands. Kind of something I was thinking about. This is like an endless debate with people, about certain things. Being accepted in Japan, right? I made a video about this a while ago. It's like a 20-minute video. Hey, what's up? And it's not a very good video in retrospect, and it was put up on this channel because this channel used to be just a response channel. It was just put up. I didn't care. I was wearing a red bandana, and I just did, off the top of my head, blog about what I thought about racism in Japan and how the word doesn't really apply. It's you can't really call it racism. Of course, there are racists in Japan, just like there are racists in every country. But a lot of what happens here is not it's not exactly racism. It's something else. It's that French word, I don't know what. But, hey, keep me quiet. But so I talked to BobbyJudo last week, and he called me about it. And he was kind of asking advice, which I was kind of honored that because he's that youngster. He looks like he's got a good head on his shoulder, like much farther ahead in his maturity level than I was, or maybe even am now. But something that I've been thinking of the last few months, and I'll share with you, is that I think racism, or let's give everyone the benefit of that. Let's say, even though I don't think so, let's say that Japanese are racist, right? But even if they are as a group, there are cases of people here who have succeeded despite the handicap being on the receiving end of discrimination. And if that's true, and if you yourself have been able to establish some real, meaningful relationships with members of the racist group, then isn't it kind of irrelevant? I mean, how many people do you really need to be friends with? And I watched all the response videos. Oh, not Hiroko's. I'm saving that. I don't want to be tainted by. I heard it's really good, so I don't want to watch that one. And then I didn't even know the other people made video responses, so I watched those. But they were actually all very good. I was especially impressed with Daichen's, and I forgot his name. P.S. Kim, I think, the piano teacher. And BLK Unk made an excellent video. I gotta admit that sometimes I feel like, and he didn't play the music too loud. I gotta admit, sometimes I feel like, like he doesn't really know what he's saying, but this video was one of his best, spot on, and he says a lot of things that I completely agree with. But who cares, man? I mean, how many people do you need to be accepted by? Really? And not to discount BobbyJudo's depression. That's part of life. And another thing I've learned to deal with early on in life is to kind of to own your depression. Accept it. Don't wallow in it. Just accept it. Like, well, I'm depressed. So, I wonder how long it'll take for this to go away. Because it will go away. In most cases, unless you actually suffer from a clinical level of depression, your depression will most likely go away and you'll be fine. It's like a cold. I've had a cold or allergies all week. It's been hell. But even Maggie had a cold, didn't you, Maggie? Right? But anyway, I thought I would share with you some recent experiences in life little things in life that I enjoy. Scottish whiskey. Look at this guy. You know who that is? That's Joe in the wheelchair, right? Overcoming life. And he's a great symbol of a great representative of the handicapped guy as a cartoon character. But and the French bulldog, French, Scottish. Oh, let me get this part out of the way. Check this out. I'm in Japan. I'm American. I was born in Peru. My great-grandmother was Arabic. My grandfather is Italian, great-grandfather. I've got Peruvian Indian in me. My brother likes to say we're from Incan blood. I'm a big mess. Check this out. This is something that I carry from America. Well, actually from Peru. Isn't this beautiful? Look, you can see yourself. Wow. Look at that. Oh, there's my wedding picture. Okay. But there, see? This is a Peruvian mirror. And isn't it beautiful? And I love this. And I really like it. That's kind of redundant, isn't it? And check this out. This is something else that I really like. This is just a leather Peruvian chair. Right? And I bring it with me. It's just a tiny little chair that you fold up and you can put it on the side when someone comes. If you don't have enough chairs, just sit down. Or actually, this laptop that I'm talking to right now is sitting on another one. I have a couple of them. Bye, Maggie. But what's the point? It's that. Oh, this is from Bali. This is from Bali. A little Bali cup. There's no reason to be one thing. You can be a mix of a bunch of things. You can share it. You don't have to. Just like your house, the way you decorate your house, it can be eccentric or. What's the word? I forget the word. When you mix a lot of different things. Oh, I forgot the word. But anyway, someone will write it in the comments. Damn it, now it bothers me. I can't remember the word. But yeah, that's life, man. It's a mix of everything. And let me go back to the Dai Chen and P.S. Kim's vlogs. They mentioned that they lived in the States, and a lot of people, they never felt like they fit in. I never. This is going to sound really strange to a lot of you. I never realized I was anything but just an American kid. I was one of the very few Hispanics in my community growing up. Which, you'll be like, what? Really? Yeah. For some reason, there weren't many Hispanic kids in our neighborhood. There were a couple, in my school too. But I always thought I was just a kid. And I knew, of course, my family, we speak Spanish at home. And when I went to New York University for the first time, I was walking down the street and people said, some guy came up to me and said, ¿Qué hora es? ¿Qué hora son? What time is it? And I'm like, ¿Cómo sabes que yo hablo español? How do you know I speak Spanish? And he was like, what, are you kidding me? And I realized for the first time that I didn't look like everyone else. And then I started to meet people who would ask me where I was from. I was never asked in high school. Nobody ever said, hey, where are you from? Where are you really from? But in college, people would ask me, hey, where are you from? And I would say, my state. And they would say, no, where are you really from? But, and it bugged me, to be honest, because I never felt anything but American. I love America. I always, I grew up American. It's funny because even now on YouTube, some people try to tell me, you're not American. Right. It's just ridiculous. It doesn't bother me at all to hear that. It's just silly. It makes me sad for America to have people like that. Not because I'm on the receiving end, but because I know that their words will hurt somebody. Somebody does get bothered. I don't, because I'm quite confident that I am American. I'm one of the biggest flag wavers. I've got a red, white, and blue leather Harley Davidson jacket, which I love. You know, riding down the street, you'd probably, you know, maybe in the States I'd look kind of silly, but in Japan it's like, yeah, I'm American. You know, and that's the thing. I have no intention of ever becoming Japanese, and I think, I don't know, unless America were taken over by, if Sarah Palin became president, I might consider it. You know, I mean, if America would really have to go down the tubes for me to ever consider renouncing my citizenship, I'm very happy being American. I love it. I don't love it. It's me. I'm American, you know. And being in Japan doesn't make me want to be Japanese at all. Not that I don't like Japanese, or I enjoy very much, of course, living here. But it's just like, it's never even entered my mind. Right? Let me tell you some things that happen to me every day. Okay, I'll give you just this recent month. We bought a house. We are taking a walk one day with Maggie, and we passed by a sign, and the sign said "House for Sale." And I didn't notice it. My wife noticed it. She said, "Oh, look, they're building a house here. They're going to build a house." There was an empty lot where this is right now. And I could tell she really wanted it, but, you know, for whatever reason, she didn't call. And so I thought, I'll call, see what happens. And I was thinking, oh, no. I said you should call. Because honestly, I thought, if I call, there is a chance that they might say, oh, it's a foreigner, I don't want to deal with him, right? Which does happen. Now this is one of the things. That kind of thing happens and people say, oh, it's racist. Yes, sometimes, not all the time, right? I know people who own buildings and I've spent time translating for landlords, because they're the people who, you know, are occupying their apartments can't understand the language, and it's a pain in the ass to explain to them even simple things like throw out your garbage on Thursday morning, not Tuesday, please, because it's against the law, right? And the building is going to get in trouble, and the neighbors get annoyed. Little things like that, you know. People just don't want to deal with it. So, and some of my students have been landlords, and they've told me horror stories. But anyway, back to it. So I thought, you know, okay, my wife should call, not me. But I called. And they were I went there first. And they were very, very welcoming. And it was never, ever a question. My identity, or my, what do you call it? Nationality, ethnicity, whatever. My race was never a question. It was one of the easiest things I've ever done. And I've never bought a house before. So there you go, you know. Some people have called me on recent videos. They've said, you're a liar. You're protecting Japan. Well, no, I'm not a liar. It's just not, I haven't experienced things that other people have experienced. I've never been stopped and asked to show my ID to anybody. Never, ever, ever. And I can't, like, Tokyo Zeppelin's been stopped 3-4 times. And I went to a cop, I'll tell you another story in a minute. I went to the cop store, the cop store. It's like a little shack. They have things called kobans in Japan, where they have 1 or 2 cops that just in the middle of a neighborhood, very tiny. It's like half the size of this room that you see here, maybe a third. And it's just a little office where they sit and they wait for people to come over and say, hey, we got a problem. So I went to one the other day to ask about a little dispute that I'm having with my neighbor. And anyway, the guy was very welcoming, and I asked him, you know, if you ask me for my ID, do I have to tell you? Because a lot of Gaijin friends have had the experience, and he said, no. He goes, yes, you have to, but you shouldn't have a problem with it, you know, if you're honest, right? Which is, you know, one of those weird things where, how do I explain this? That attitude of, hey, if you got nothing to hide, you should have no problem with it, right? But at the same time, we shouldn't really have to show our ID to anybody, right? But apparently the law is that you have to. So there you go for anyone who's been wondering. If they ask you for your ID, you got to show them. I said, could you get arrested? He goes, well, in the worst case, yeah, I suppose you could get arrested, but who knows? But again, it's never happened to me. So for those of you who think, you know, I'm protecting Japan, no, I'm not lying. It's just never happened to me, you know. I don't know why. I can't explain it. But other little things that I look at that make me smile. I walk around with Maggie, and people talk to me all the time, and rarely, and I'm talking 1 in 100 or less times, will people ever ask me where I'm from. They never ask. We talk about the dog or the weather, or they say, "Can I touch him? Can I pet him or her?" You know, they think Maggie's a boy. How insulting! That's racism. You know, but my nationality never comes up. The other day I went to a park. I went to the police in the Koban. On the way back, I stopped at what do you call it? A little park, right? Little park, and in the park they had like I don't know, 12 or 13 nursery students. Is that what you call them? Nursery kids, you know, tiny little kids, tots, and 3 teachers. And that's a park that Maggie and I sometimes stop in, and I'll throw the ball around. And I went in there, and they were like, "Oh, what a cute dog!" Because Maggie had a little coat on. It was really cold. It's really cold. And the kids like came over and looked at Maggie, and we're all very happy to see her. And Maggie's great with kids. She doesn't bite at all. She's kind of bored by him. She's like, don't, you know, she'd rather chase a cat or a ball. So I took out the ball, and they watched Maggie play with the ball, and that was really fun for everybody. But the thing is, like, none of the teachers asked. What I'm saying is, another example of just me walking around, just being in Japan, and nothing, you know, nothing. I have a neighbor now who we have a park right in front of our house, right? And one of the pluses when we moved here was we thought, hey, this is great. We can go to that park, you know, every day with Maggie, and that's great, you know. And apparently, after we moved in, the woman next door, who also has a dog, this funny older woman, she's like, "That man over there, he doesn't want your dog. He's going to tell you not to let your dog poop in there. But we let our dog play in there too." So the man doesn't want anyone to encroach on his park that is next to his house. But it's not his park. It's a city park. And to be honest, and he told me like 2 days ago, he came up to me and goes, "You shouldn't let your dog play in the park." I'm like, "Why?" You know? And I'm actually got a shovel, and I'm cleaning up other dogs' poop. So I'm like burying poop because I'm being polite. I want to be a good example, you know, because I'm new in the neighborhood. And I'm like, this isn't my poop. I'm cleaning this up. You know, I don't know whose poop this is, but you know, there's a lot of poop. It's obviously not my dog. It's like 2 kilograms of dog poop, you know, or cat. I think it's cat poop. But anyway, he's like, he completely ignores me and says, "Don't let your dog come in here because families come in here and play." And actually, very rarely have I ever seen any family in that park. And if they do come in, it's perfectly okay to have a dog in a park. So, long story short, I went to the police station to ask them if it was okay, maybe I was missing something, and I wanted to make sure, cover all my bases, that that park was a city park, and Maggie and I had every right to go in that park and throw the ball around. And as long as she's leashed, we have every right. But in the end, I didn't think, oh, that old guy, you know, is against me because I'm a foreigner. In fact, I just think he's treating me just like everyone else. He's kind of a bully a little bit to everybody in the neighborhood. So there, I fit in. I'm bullied just like everyone else, you know, and it has nothing to do with my race. So, as for BobbyJudo, back to your, I guess, lonely thing, you know, I go through phases. In the past, I've spent like 2 or 3 years only staying away completely from gaijin bars and hanging out with gaijin, and then there was a time when I was completely immersed in the gaijin community, and then I'd come out again. Here's the question, you know, if you have ever fallen in love, and if you ever have believed that someone loved you in this country, then come on, can it really be that bad? I mean, if you've loved and felt love and loved in return, then that's basically, you know, that should be enough pretty much for anybody, I think. But it isn't for some people. Some people just need to be accepted by everybody. And if that's the case, if that's your, that's you, then maybe Japan is not the place for you. I'm the kind of person that could live anywhere in the world. And actually, to be honest, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was seriously considering moving back to the States. And I had a job lined up that would have paid me more than what I'm making now. And with the way, house prices are and land, rent and cost of living in the States, I'd probably have a, easier time in the States. But I decided to stay in Japan because I like it. I'm happy here, Why move? I feel good here, I'm not saying I want to stay here forever, but I don't really see any reason to move. And now that we have a house, it looks like I'm going to be here a long time. Anyway, wow, another 20-minute vlog. If you've stuck around this long, then I predict the movie Thor, which is coming out next year, is going to suck. Hope I'm wrong. Okay? You can say that at the end of the comments. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and stay positive, And if any of you racism is something we do want to get rid of, but the best way to do it is just to be a good representative of your race, whatever that is. Okay, guys. I'm sure I'll talk about this more in the future, but anywho, see you later.